Students from all over the world come to study at Susan Sarback's School of Light and Color in Fair Oaks, California. At her school and adjacent art gallery, students study how painting with full spectrum color capture radiant light and color and create luminosity in painting. In this video, you will learn her four-step process to capture radiant light and color in your own painting. The painting in this video and her four-step process are also featured in her newly updated book, Capturing Radiant Light and Color.
Today I'm going to be painting a still life subject in the lineage of the Impressionists using a full spectrum palette, meaning no blacks or browns, to capture the quality of light. The Impressionists understood how light creates form, atmosphere, and distance. Now what we'll be doing is working with the basics of how color creates form in this video. Atmosphere and distance are used mostly outside in landscape painting. There are many different ways of approaching a painting. This is like different languages. There may be Russian and Greek and Chinese, and this approach is one way of capturing radiant color and a luminosity in your painting. This approach uses the full spectrum of color without any browns or blacks. Browns and blacks actually deaden or dull a painting. You can see here how I laid this out. I have the warm colors on this side and the cool colors on this side with white in the center here. When I work with this palette, I'm working with an expanded palette. It's not a limited palette. When looking at the subject matter, try not to stare into it. If you try to see a color and stare into it, you'll see mostly the local or the obvious color. You'll see the orange is only orange, or you'll see a blue cloth is only blue. So what you want to do is learn something called scanning and comparing. What I do is I look at the subject and I scan from left to right. Now you can see my eyes are not looking at anything but scanning the subject. I'm going to show you a four-stage process, and I'll be starting with stage one, which is stating the major masses. In stage one, it defines the light source, the value and temperature are established. So stage one is really the underpainting, and this should take 15 minutes or less. So the first thing I want to do is start with the darkest darks and work with all the shadow colors. That's the easiest way to establish what you'll be doing. So when I squint at this and look at the subject, and what I'm doing is scanning and squinting so that I'm not staring into the subject. The darkest dark looks like it's this bottle, and I can see many variations of color in it, but I want to simplify everything into a large major shape of light or shadow, relative value, relative temperature. The shadows will begin all cool, and everything in the light will begin warm. That's the underpainting. I want to see how these colors differ from one another. Okay, I established the mass as one big shape, no detail. And now I go to another shadow. When I look at these shadows, I look to see how they're different. This front shadow here looks greener. So I like to work with all the shadows first, starting with the darkest dark. Mix a color with white, a pure color with white. I'm not mixing any colors with other colors. So the first stage is over-exaggerated, over-colored, seeing how things differ. That's always the question I'm looking to answer, is how do things differ? How do the masses differ from one another? I'm not working on the edges. I'm keeping the edges loose, and I'm stating the mass from the inside out, so I'm working with a mass rather than filling in the lines.